Welcome back, everybody, to the Nevin Shapiro Fan Club experience. I'm here back with Nevin Shapiro, and today we're going to do a full head coaching breakdown assessment all the way from the Larry Coker era. We're going to go into why Miami has been the way they have been over the years from Nevin's perspective, and why the program has not become back to the prominent program that it once was. We're going to go into records, the years they were there. So please please subscribe on the page. We're dropping videos every week. And as always, let's get into the action. Larry Coker was 60-15 at Miami from 2001 to 2006. You were really involved at that time. Why do you believe the program started to really take a step back under him?
Well, I watched it firsthand. And before I even answer, let me just say Larry Coker is a gentleman and he's a super human being. So I like Coach Coker very much personally. So this is just being honest and answering a question in its reality. So I just want to make that, very clear because I never had anything bad to say about Coach Coker. But as a fan and what I was able to witness being very close to the program, that's a convoluted record. That's really an asterisk of a record, which Davis built that entire program. You could have been 60-15. I don't know if you've coached one play in your whole life. Not to say it doesn't take, a certain level of acumen and football knowledge, because you got to put together a staff. And Coach Coker, hired Randy Shannon to be a defense coordinator, first-time coordinator. Rob Chudzinski, first-time coordinator, offense coordinator, and they were ultra successful, and Coach Coker deserves credit for that. However, I watched it. I watched the program disintegrate before my eyes. And while I caught a lot of heat, and I really don't need to really talk about the scandal and all that stuff, but while I caught a lot of heat of what was going on, and he was this and he was that, I fought like tooth and nail to keep that program at bay. And there were just things that were out of my control that I couldn't stop. I didn't have the final say. Donna Shalala did, and God rest his soul, Paul D. But I watched that disintegrate, and we really hit the skids. 2004, 2005 was when I saw it all. I knew what was coming, and then we just rolled into that period. The Brian Pata death, Sean Taylor passes away, although not part of the current program. He was already in the league by then. The FIU fight. There were just so many dark clouds surrounding us, and on top of it, we weren't successful anymore. And so I watched that precipitous fall, and it was terrible. And I witnessed it close hand. And I don't think I need to really share a lot of details. About what I saw, because it was a culmination of things. But, when you're the head guy, it's on your watch.
Right. For you, what is maybe one reason why you believe Larry Coker did not extend what Butch had already built?
Butch had a ridiculous amount of experience under some great regimes, predominantly Jimmy Johnson. And, he was surrounded by the Dave Wanstedts and, former NFL head coaches that inevitably became NFL head coaches. And so his personnel nose was incredible, even when he was working under Jimmy back when in the 80s. It's a hard barometer to live up to. I watched it. There was no underbelly. Like with Jimmy Johnson, he had like great guys under. There was no underbelly to support dip in the foundation.
So you believe it was a coaching staff thing?
Well, yeah, but Larry Coker's got to take that responsibility.
Yeah. So let's move on to Randy Shannon. So Larry Coker gets fired. Randy Shannon comes in 2007. He stays for 4 years, 3.5, 4 years. No bowl wins, and he was 28-22. When we speak to a lot of the former players, they speak very highly of him from a defensive coordinator perspective. What's your assessment on why he couldn't bring the program back?
I have some real personal feelings about this question because I was very intimately involved. And Randy was an excellent defensive coordinator. Proven. I think he still is. But there were some other things as a head coach that I didn't necessarily agree with, that I saw and witnessed. And I don't want to go on any kind of, finger pointing or bashing with Randy. I saw some things that I just would have done differently. And I heard a lot what was going on internally. I was very, very close to that locker room. Very close to that locker room. A lot of guys held a lot of anger inside towards him and felt like their careers could have gone in a different direction, let's just say. And whether that's true or not, I'm not the judge on that, but I did hear it from the player side on a daily basis. Of course, I was already locked up and gone when his inevitable collapse happened. I think he could have been a lot better than what he was. That's really how I feel. I think he could have been a really good coach, and there were just a number of mitigating factors that didn't allow that to happen.
How did you feel about his coaching staff?
I didn't care for it. I loved Clint Hurt, and I loved Joe Panunzio. And actually, Jeff Stoutland was a really good coach who has proven so with his work in the NFL. But there were just missing pieces, and it was like teams on the staff, like it wasn't all for one. That's really what it was.
Yeah, it was like segregated.
And you're just never going to have a cohesive situation. And that's a lot of what I hear about today.
No, of course. I mean, when you sat down with Randy Phillips, he went into it a little bit.
And there's many others.
Yeah.
Randy's just one that's not shy about it, but others echo that sentiment.
Yeah. Called it like the Randy Shannon doghouse. And
once you're in, you really don't get out.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd have people that he didn't like off to the side. And
yeah, I mean, it was well known who his guys were. We didn't keep them around our parties and our rendezvous. They weren't, because the players knew, like, keep these dudes out, because whenever Randy would know something was going on and mention it to these guys, we already knew who was the hot button.
So you would safe to say Randy didn't particularly like how you were doing things?
Well, he'd have to answer that, but he should have, because it benefited him.
That's my proof. That's why I asked.
I mean, it would have been it benefited him directly.
That's what I'm saying. You were able to bring in talent.
Yeah, that Northwestern move was my move.
That Northwestern 8 should have been 9.
You know the story on that.
Yep. So let's move on to Al Golden. Randy Shannon gets fired in 2010. Al Golden comes in 2011. He was there 4.5 years. He got fired middle of the year when he was down 58-0 to Clemson at halftime. No bowl wins also in that era. And he was 32-25.
So before you even finish, he had no chance before he started because of my situation. He walked into a room and just got knocked out. He didn't even see the swing coming. He just got blindside clocked. So I don't really hold Al Golden. I can't even be judgmental against Al Golden, if you want to really be fair.
Okay, yeah.
He thought he was buying a Lamborghini and was stuck with a hoopty. And
oh my God. Yeah, he didn't. He
thought he was getting the playmate. He thought he was getting a playmate with the 38 double Ds, and no one told her she had HIV.
And a lot of when Al Golden was like my era of when I was growing up as a kid, and my perspective, and as we sit down with former players and talk to them, their perspective too is, if he would have just freaking fired his defensive coordinator, Mark D'Onofrio,
I think he should have taken his tie off and hung him. That's the only negative I have about Al Golden. If I was on the sideline, listen, if I was on the sideline, I'm telling you, I just know me and the comedy that I bring to a party. I would have cut his tie on the sideline. He'd be walking around with a bow tie.
So safe to say you didn't like the outfit.
Look, fucking so stupid.
Listen, I think he's doing an incredible job. He's another guy like Randy who was a DC. He's a DC at heart. And Miami's had a lot of those guys. I mean, we're going to get into Manny Diaz, right? So a lot of DCs Miami has gone after and try to make them head coaches. And look what he's done in Notre Dame. He brought them to a national championship this year. Fell a little short, but still, their defense was very good. Offensively, Notre Dame wasn't that good this year. It was their defense that got them to where they were.
Yeah.
So I just think if he would have fired Mark D'Onofrio, he might still be here. I don't.
Yeah, the poor guy got stuck with a hoopty.
That's what we're going to chalk it up as. No, you're right. It wasn't a great situation that he was involved in, obviously. He walked in, but he knew what he was getting into. It was going to be an uphill battle.
I think they added his salary to my restitution.
Oh, man. We're turning the Nevin Shapiro fan club show into a comedy special.
It's always been that.
Yeah, that's true. So let's go now into Mark Richt. So Al Golden gets fired 2015. Mark Richt comes in 3 years, 2016 to 2018. He had one bowl win, Russell Athletic Bowl. He went 26-11. He was the 2017 ACC Coach of the Year. Why do you think Mark Richt couldn't get us back over the hump?
He was the right guy at the right time, or the right guy at the wrong time, depending how you look at it. They needed some continuity. After Larry Coker's exit, Randy Shannon's lack of success, I guess would be the word, the way I would put it. The Al Golden scenario on the heels of my situation with the school, they just needed to touch the ground and just get a little bit of stability. And so I don't think Mark Richt could have been expected to do anything more than what he did. And that's it. I think he did a fair job. I don't want to say he did a great job, but I think he did a good job. Flat B would be my grade for him.
Yeah.
And for anyone who says that I set the program, they should have recovered by then.
Statute of limitation.
I mean, come on, that's it.
So now let's go into Manny Diaz. So Manny Diaz was on the Mark Richt staff. He put together a really good defensive. He was DC, so he put together a really good defense on Mark Richt's staff. He was there for 3 years, 2019 to 2021. Also, no bowl wins. He was 21-15 in 3 years. We all love Manny's defense under Mark Richt. Why do you think Manny couldn't put Miami back on the map?
I think Manny Diaz was, and I don't have any ill feelings towards Manny Diaz whatsoever, but I don't think that he was really deserving of that head coaching position. That's just how I feel. I think that he maybe today would be a consideration for that type of head coaching job, but based on his success level, would he have gotten that job? I don't think so. I just don't think so. And
yeah, it was out of his league.
I think it was.
Yeah.
And that's no knock on him. I don't want to come out like a critic. I'm just honest. I think they could have gone a different direction. Mike Lee, God rest his soul, may have been a great hire at that time. There's some other, I know Butch Davis's name is resurfaced in and out and in and out and in and out, but I know the reason why he's never gotten back here. And I didn't think Manny should have. I didn't think he was deserving of that type of promotion so early on. That's just my feeling. I don't think he was a bad coach. I just don't think that. I don't think he could have ever taken Miami to the next level. I think he got them as good as he could get them.
Yeah,
that's how I really.
He had some
feel.
Really bad losses to FIU.
Yeah, I mean that's.
You lose FIU.
I mean that's. Listen to me.
Yeah.
That's not even. It's not even imaginable. But I don't think he was a. They gave him too big of a promotion, and I think a lot of it. I know, had to do with his dad and the political juice with regards to the board of directors, and I know how it went down.
Yeah.
Even though I was away, I know how it went down.
All right. And before we get into this one, I just want to say one thing. This is not a Bash Mario Cristobal show. So we're going to get into Mario. This is just grading everything from top to bottom. So we're going to get into it now. Mario Cristobal has won only one more win, or he has only one more win than Manny Diaz in 3 years, but has one more loss. He's 22-16. No bowl wins in 3 years. Do you see any difference between the two?
Yes,
Okay.
a huge difference. For all the pundits out there that think that I rag on Mario, I merely state the facts. When do I ever shoot at him personally, other than what I'm told from the players in a dictator mindset? I don't. I really just go on the facts, and I go on what I know.
Yep.
So here's what I will say: Mario Cristobal is legions ahead of Manny Diaz. Another stratosphere. He's an incredible recruiter. He also has, to defend Manny Diaz, he has a different platform now with NIL. Manny Diaz didn't have. Would he have had the same panache, Manny, with today's current NIL landscape? I don't think so. Mario has a bit more control than I say what Manny Diaz would have had.
Yeah.
Through the school and the Moss brothers and, whatever the situation was with John Ruiz prior to that. Mario is a really, really dynamic recruiter, and he's a really good recruiter. And I think the program, the talent all over the field is evident of that. The results aren't evident. The talent is very easy to detect, would you say?
Oh, especially this past year.
They got a lot of talent, man. And that's why I come down so hard on him for what they did last year. Because it's just and I said I won't talk about it anymore, so I'm just gonna touch on it. That's why I came so hard at him for last year's performance. Because there was just no excuses. Though he made excuses. And there were none. It's like, own it. We should have been better. I should have been better. That's it. Yeah, they're much better under Mario Cristobal than they were under Manny Diaz, regardless of the record. They're in a different situation now. The program is grounded, in a good way, saddled with talent.
Oregon just came out and gave Dan Lanning an extension. He's 35-6 in 3 years at Oregon. Especially early on, those were a lot of Mario's recruits. Why has Dan Lanning been so successful at Oregon with a lot of Mario's guys?
Without being critical, let's just pretend as if we're AI and just spitting out facts. Mario Cristobal's a few games over 500 as a coach, lifetime. Let's not confuse him with Bear Bryant, Howard Schnellenberger, Nick Saban, Lou Holtz, whoever, Joe Paterno, Bobby Bowden. Let's not put him in those terms. He's a coach that's a few games over 500. And if not for Cam Ward, he'd be under 500. So let's just put that where that is. Would you say that's factual?
That's very, yeah. Okay. The records are right here.
Okay. So when I say what I say, I think all this talk is just us extending it until we get to next season. This is it, bottom line. He needs to win the ACC and be in the playoffs this year. If he doesn't do those two things, he's not going to be anything more than what he is. That's it. He will have had 4 years and an unlimited checkbook. That's it. I don't care what any fan thinks of me, what any fan thinks of my commentary, or what they think themselves. If you're a University of Miami fan and you bleed for that program, you agree with what I just said. ACC championship and a playoff, even if it's a first-round playoff exit. ACC championship and there's too much money they're spending. What are you talking about?
I'm on the same wavelength.
And skip all the other bullshit. You want to hear me shut up? I want to shut up. Go fucking win the ACC. And do what you should do with the talent you have. What else is there to talk about, man? What the fuck else is there to talk about? Man, go win the ACC. That fucking conference sucks. Ass.
It's not very
it
strong.
It sucks.
Yeah. Florida State's not very good. Clemson's on down years.
I mean, tell me one thing I've said that's wrong. Yeah. Ever on these interviews. I don't have an angle or an agenda. You ask, do I know one question you were about to ask me?
He had no clue
I never
about
have a
this whole
clue.
thing.
I don't give a shit. You can ask me whatever. You could come up with 10 new questions right now. I'll tell you. If I got the answer, I'll give it to you. I probably have the answer. I'll just give it to you. There's nothing to talk about. He's got to win the ACC, man. So before you ask me a question in the next few months, what does Mario Cristobal have to do for this to be a success? He has to win the ACC and get to the playoffs. Fucking period.
Yep.
If he wins a national title, he can celebrate and become the king of Miami.
Yep. Well, I'll get on my knees and praise him.
Whatever.
Final question.
Yeah.
What is your biggest reason that Miami has not gotten back to prominence under Mario Cristobal?
Mario Cristobal. What else? What else could it be?
Is it
Was Cam Ward, could he have been any better?
so you think it's
Could
more,
their defense have been any worse? Whose decisions are those? Cam Ward was a great acquisition. Okay. Make it count. His defense sucked. How do you lose against I don't want to go back to last year.
Yeah.
You know how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just don't want to, the fans are probably bored of it too. Who the fuck wants to hear about it? It's miserable. Who else well, let me ask you. Whose fault was it that they didn't win last year?
I think it's Mario's fault.
Ask another fan.
Yeah.
Take a poll.
You could blame it on the DC, but that's under
Whatever.
Mario's.
I mean, listen,
it's under
he
Mario's
hired
regimen.
Lance Guidry.
Yep.
Not any of these fans or you.
Yep. I definitely believe it was his fault in certain coaching decisions, not kicking,
There's
going for the fourth down.
I hear a lot of, you know who we speak with, multiple people, and a lot of these situations are correctable. But he doesn't want the input from former players, and certain things could have been addressed in the games where they were choking out. All this noise is going to go away in September. The noise is going to get real loud, or it's just going to disappear. That's it.
In one or two ways.
It's not X's and O's. It's September. I think their offense is incredible. First few days, you can't judge, but I really love their young receivers. I think Josiah Trader's going to be great. I think this kid Josh Moore, I really like his look. Malachi Tony.
Okay.
I mean, they're 6-7 receivers deep. They got a very strong offensive line. He's continuing to upgrade that line. I mean, he gets kudos for that. He's developed them in the trenches. In that trench offensively. I think their offense has a chance to be really special. As special as last year? Maybe. They got the personnel. I can tell you that. They're just inexperienced. But that doesn't mean the personnel's not there. They could be better than these guys that just left. Even though that would be some statement. That would be some performance because those guys are really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, if their defense is on par, if the defense is average, and Mario just acts like a head coach, they should be able to do what I just said. Win the ACC and make the playoffs. And if they don't, it's strictly on him. And that's it. And he could blame anyone he wants. Take your $80 million and go.
Absolutely. So let's close with this. A full recap. Why do you believe Miami, out of so many head coaches over the years, why is it taking this long? What, in your opinion?
Quick fix answers. The coaches, like the way they hired Manny Diaz was a panic move because he was going to Temple. Oh my God, we got him not let. It's really gone on since Butch left.
It really has. That's why I asked the question. I want to get your perspective
And
on
it
why
has
you
to,
think
it's like a combination of things. It's, Donna Shalala, her head wasn't really, she was focused on the hospital. Well, they made plenty of money and obviously did well. But, Miami's a private university and they don't have the type of backup like a lot of these other states, like University of Florida or Ohio State. Like they got crazy, crazy money behind them. And this is a private university and things are done differently. And it didn't have to take this long.
Absolutely.
It didn't.
This is a 1-year fixed program. with all the talent here.
Yeah, I
One
mean,
year
at worst
fix.
case, 2 years.
Yep.
Like Mario's had plenty of time, and I'm not blaming it all on Mario. He didn't do this for the last 20 years. It wasn't his fault, but he's had enough time. And now in today's NIL landscape, you don't need 4 years. You just don't. I've mentioned it numerous times. Indiana, whoever. I don't want to repeat it again. You know who they are that had instant success. SMU. He did it. He left Miami, went and did it. Rhett Lashley. So it's not that like this is the hardest trip. This is look where we are, man. Just look around. Like look where we are. Who don't want to be here, man? You got a running start on the competition.
That's why, as I wrote out these questions, I'm just like, how many coaches does it take to fix this? This is one of the greatest college football teams ever assembled.
I mean, and all the Miami fans like, and I say we because I'm a Miami fan. We've got to be realistic, man.
Yep.
We have not won shit in forever.
More than 20 years.
When you're still talking about 5 national titles, Oklahoma could talk about the 8 they won in the 50s and 60s. That's a long time ago already. It's just time to like start a new era. And like let's just build now. The tradition starts now. The older tradition was amazing and legendary and epic and it's in the lore of forever. But this is a new day and age. We haven't won shit in 25 years, basically. That's a long time, man. How old are you?
29.
Your whole life. That's
Pretty
how many
much.
years it's been since we won.
Pretty much, yeah. I was young when we won in 2001.
So it's just time to get out of the past and get in the present. Man, come to the now. The now is, this is the Wild West. It's NIL. It's these guys are professional paid athletes, and it's a minor league of the NFL at this point. We have an advantage over many.
I would say all.
Anyone that doesn't agree with what I just said, just find another pastime because you're just not intelligent.
So, Nevin, appreciate you sitting down again. Thank you guys so much for watching the episode. This was so great, so loaded with so much here, and, we're going to be shooting again next week. So please drop a like. Please drop a subscribe before you guys leave. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one.